Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of the Multifamily Movers podcast. I am your host, Alexio Barbara. Today we have a really exciting guest, Alex Inabnet. But first, I want to tell you this is a podcast dedicated to bringing industry expert knowledge to San Diego multifamily apartment owners so that they can make better investment decisions. We hope you like and follow and share this podcast with anybody in your network who's looking to do business and make waves here in the San Diego marketplace. So without further ado, I want to introduce today's guest, Alex Inabnet. He is wearing a multitude of hats. It's actually really impressive. I can't wait to introduce all the things that he's doing here between San Diego, Austin, and Tampa. He's doing everything from construction to property management to loan funding. Let me let you introduce yourself, Alex. You're just wearing so many hats, it's hard to keep up.
So a lot of people are really trying to understand how all this is possible, and so ultimately it takes a lot of great people to be involved to do so, and people are people way smarter than me are like, Alex, dude, just focus on one thing, and our one thing is helping multifamily real estate developers achieve their dreams and with their projects. So if the multifamily developer is in Austin, Tampa, or San Diego, we'll talk San Diego specifically here, and say there's a 20 unit deal that's in Pacific Beach that the developer wants to develop over a span of 24 months. Our team is able to step in at a 3-phase process of brokering the construction loan, whether it's with the bridge to purchase the lot, and then also fund the construction side with Inabnet funds, and then our GC company, Inabnet Contracting, I'm the licensed individual in California, and so we bid and build the project. We have a pre-construction services agreement that can step in and hire the whole engineering and design team. Mm-hmm. We have a horizontal bid phase where we can take on just the site work if need be, and then we have the vertical phase where we can build the vertical side of the construction. And then our third phase in the brand is the property management company, which is Inabnet Property Management. And so we have salespeople along all three companies. And to answer your question long-windedly, how all this happens is from a lot of good people, and with the specific focus on scaling a multifamily real estate developer's portfolio, mm-hmm. and making the Inabnet brand a household name in multifamily real estate, especially here in San Diego.
Well, I can definitely attest, and I'm sure any of our listeners who have been through development in the past have likely had bad experiences from either the design, the development, the lending process, and there's incompetent people at every stage, and there's a lot of them. It's very hard, even someone being ingrained in this industry, doing a lot of development. I have a hard time chasing contractors and having good communication, and I think that's the biggest challenge it sounds like you're trying to overcome, is eliminating that communication barrier between the funding, the building, and then delivery and potential management thereafter. So it's really cool, especially coming to the table. All of my interactions with you, you've just been incredibly communicative, and I think that's what's lacking for a lot of developers and contractors. Sometimes you send a text or 3 texts and you don't get a call back for like a couple days, and you're like, dude, when's my project gonna get done? I gotta yell at someone, So totally. I think having someone who pick up the phone, and it sounds like you have that kind of style of keeping the client updated throughout the process.
Yeah, I mean, time is money, mm-hmm. and if you have, say it's this month of January 2024, you have the game plan of doing 5 deals this year, and our goal is to literally step in and totally pulverize that idea and say, hey, look, you can actually get to 8. Here's how you're going to do it. And by the communication strategy that we have, which is follow up or respond within 24 hours, mm-hmm. we want to make sure that, say, for example, you sent me that Pontiac deal, mm-hmm. and that was something that we bid out relatively quickly, but then also you got a separate email from Inabnet Funds that says, hey, we can help fund this as right. well. So I think the power in the 3-phase process is really at phase 1 and 2. Phase 3 is super important to maintain the property if you end up holding on to it. But the power that is missing in a lot of the lending and construction combination is there's 2 separate businesses that are involved in those transactions. The lender is only focused on the amount of, not only, and I'm not trying to bad talk any lenders, but lenders are salespeople, right? They're trying to get the loan funded so that they can make their commission check. And so ultimately, that timeline is totally different than the construction phase, right? So even if you're just doing a single ADU like the Pontiac deal, or 2 units, it's going to take you 3 to 4 months, maybe longer, to get those approvals. But if you're doing a bigger deal like a 20 unit, it's going to take you 12 to 15 months, maybe longer, to get the approvals in hand. So if you do a combo construction loan from the start of the purchase, your construction dollars could be significantly different once you actually get to the actual build. So what we try to do is we literally try to leverage our expertise on both sides so that we can combine and make sure that our construction company may not even be given the opportunity to bid the project, but we're still going to look at it internally so that we can make sure to match up the target loan amount on the construction side that you as a developer are shooting for, to make sure that there's a back check process.
Well, I think that's huge because, even myself, I have been going through the loan process on that particular deal, and there is a disconnect. You need someone who speaks construction and loan and lender terms to actually bridge that gap, because those guys are like, well, what's the budget going to be? And you're like, okay, got to go talk to my GC. We'll figure out what the budget is. Okay, here's the budget, like 4 or 5 days past. Having someone who has all of that information and can talk, speak the language and understands the client's needs and how to communicate that to the lender and bring the backing of a contractor bid to the table, that's what they need to see in order to get you the max loan dollars, which was what typically everybody's trying to get. They're trying to use as many loan dollars as possible to build a project so they don't have to come out of pocket very much themselves. So I see tremendous value that brings, especially that 2-phase process that you're talking about. So I love being around people who have big inspiring goals. What are your big and outrageous goals for you and your 3 companies?
So for a couple of years now, I just turned 30 in late 2023, and so something clicked, I think right before my birthday. But for the last 2 years, I've been saying this affirmation of, we're the greatest real estate development brand in the world, and we have earned $10 billion by giving our time, love, passion, persistence, and obsession. We have accomplished these by buying, creating, developing, building, holding, managing, and lending on real estate. And so that affirmation has kind of formulated into now what is a company structure of real life of what we do in the Inabnet brand. And so obviously that dollar figure is super high. It's a massive lifelong goal, but the higher level big picture of that, to answer your question on a more realistical term, is we want to help as many multifamily real estate developers as possible. It's literally the brand's goal and the locations we're involved in our processes is obviously to obtain financial and success and creative success and do things that
everybody wants.
Not a lot of people have done. What we're trying to achieve is something that your Trammell Crows, your household real estate names have accomplished, and so it's going to take a long time to do that. But at the end of the day, it's the main goal that we have is help as many developers far exceed their goals in a year or a certain amount of time as possible.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's a really ambitious goal. And I think it's really cool to see people with crazy goals. Most people would think, you're out of mind, good luck, this guy's delusional.
Yeah, wacky.
But what's funny is when you set those goals for yourself. I remember setting goals for myself, even in real estate sales, and I thought it was like 350K. You're going to make 350K this year. And to see me like blow through that, like a couple, maybe not that same year, but like a year or two later, I was like, wow, like I like thought that was wild and outrageous. But you have to shoot for the stars if you want to reach the moon.
You got to say that, but you got to say it out loud, because ultimately it can be a thought, and then if that just remains a thought, then that's all it is, right? You have to say it out loud to either yourself, looking yourself in the mirror, having that conversation with yourself to make sure that that you're convinced initially, and then once you're convinced, that's how all of it becomes compounded to other people over time.
Yeah, like manifested. You're like making a crystal clear image of what's happening in your head, and then all of a sudden you're just imprinting it. It just starts happening. You're like a virus. It's just like that idea is going to become a reality. It's really cool. So, like you, I mean, you say you do it in front of the mirror. I write my goals down every morning. Write all the little tasks I'm doing each day that are going to excel me towards those goals, and it's really important. And that's why everybody who's doing big things has a similar story.
Where did you learn the writing down method? Was that from somebody, or did you?
Yeah. Have you met Jarvis Leverson? He's the morning hero on Instagram.
Okay.
I did his morning hero program for maybe 2 years. And every morning you wake up at 5 a.m. It's an accountability call. It's like usually 5 to 5:45 a.m. You go through the process. Yeah, no, it's great because it gets you up. You can't just sleep through it because you got like 5 other people on this call. So you go through this and you talk. Everybody shares their goals of the day. Actually, we start by going over the goals of yesterday. Did we hit them? And then we share the goals of our new day. So it gets written down.
So it's a daily thing.
Every day, every weekday. And then after that, 5:45, you're already up, so you might as well go for your run or whatever. It helps you get out, get the blood moving, get the blood flowing, and then I get home, and then I go to work. And I already got a couple wins for the day. I got my health goal out of the way. So just that kind of starting the day with that kind of momentum was huge, and that's where doing that consistently, I built the habit of every single day, organizing my day into buckets. Business, relationships, health, and personal growth, and then trying to hit a couple things in each of those buckets, but making sure I focus on hitting something in each bucket, not just one bucket. Otherwise, that's going to, business will take over your life. Everything else is going to fall to the sidelines. So that's worked really well for me.
It shows, dude. It shows like you get a lot of stuff going on, especially for somebody your age, and your knowledge base of what you're doing. So that's cool. It's not like that. The big dreams and aspirations and the methods of getting there happens organically. Like you have to work at it, and you can definitely tell that you've done that.
Thanks. Well, we're the same age. I turned 30 last year too. So
let's go.
Yeah. So I'd definitely say we're side by side in the race. We're not. No one's getting left behind here. So it's cool to see that be around other people who are just pushing the boundaries, because there's a lot of people that are just falling to the sidelines, not really thinking about their future. And if you start hanging around that too much, you're going to get drawn away from your own dreams. So anyway, really excited to have you here on the show again. My question for you is, ADUs are a huge value add play in San Diego. And a lot of listeners here are really only involved in San Diego, but I'm interested because you've got experience in markets across the U.S., between here, Austin, and Tampa, like literally coast to coast. I want to know, are ADUs the same big deal in Austin and Tampa? Like, where are you seeing it be the biggest value add play?
Great question. And each market has its own way of doing it because of the city jurisdiction that makes the calls. I will say that anybody that's listening to this right now, San Diego is, out of the 3 markets that we focus on, because there's way more markets out there, but out of the 3 markets that we focus on, San Diego is literally the ADU hub of micro units, fitting as many units as possible on a residentially zoned lot, finding different ways to move the puzzle pieces around to, turn a single family home into 15 to 20 plus units, right?
Right.
That's pretty incredible that the county and city itself is like allowing that to happen here. And it just shows how much this area is pushing for that, because it allows for so much creativity. Moving to Austin, Austin has had a primary and ADU common design over the last handful years plus. So the difference between there and here is that they're two separate structures. So in the city of Austin, you can condo the lot, and two separate homeowners can live on the lot. So so there can be.
That's after you build the ADU or before?
After you build. We're talking about if there's a developer that buys the lot and then develops a primary unit that's up to 1,100 square feet is the max, and then a primary unit and then a ADU unit that is up to 1,100 square feet max, and then that developer can then condo the lot and then sell them separately so that two separate homeowners can live. If you are purchasing a lot with a single family home on it in Austin, you do have the capability of building an ADU in the backyard like you do here, and you just condo that separately and then you can sell that separately.
Interesting.
So it's like what, in the same way that San Diego is pushing to stack people in, basically stack people in micro units with like allowing for these advantageous like multi-units here. It's the same thought that Austin has.
But they're limiting you to like one or maybe two in a backyard.
Correct, but to add to that, over the last like 30 to 45 days, Austin, so towards the end of last year, early this year, Austin just is, I think they just officially passed it, that 3 units are allowed.
Oh, cool.
But you can condo all 3. So there's going to be 3 separate homeowners living on a lot of detached units.
Awesome. Well, there's actually legislation in San Diego now that's pushing so that you can do it, like throw an HOA on it. Yeah, and essentially condo map when you have a house or a house with 2 ADUs or 1 ADU in the back. That's like on the board right now to be voted on, and it sounds like that's going to probably move forward. So then I guess
that'd be
they're following
massive
suit
here,
to
dude.
Austin.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also for property owners too, it increases the value add play because then the individual lots, if being able to be sold separately, allows for greater returns on investment versus if it's sold as a triplex, because everybody likes to have control of their own spot.
Right.
So that's really cool. What about Florida?
So in Tampa, the ADUs aren't as popular, but there is a specific area that likes them more for some reason. It's in Pinellas County, which is the city of St. Petersburg. So in Tampa Bay, you have Tampa, which is Hillsborough County. You have Clearwater, and then you have St. Petersburg, and that makes up the Tampa Bay region.
Okay.
And so St. Petersburg is literally, it's funny how this happened, and maybe I'm biased, and maybe I made this up in my head, but St. Petersburg is a combination between Austin and San Diego. It's a very outside the box thinking place, and very artsy, creative. There's a bunch of murals painted everywhere, and for some reason there are a lot more ADU builds happening in the St. Petersburg area. I guess it's because costs are cheaper than in Tampa. The county and the city of St. Petersburg may allow them more. I'm not totally sure, but I would say as far as the tiers go of ADUs in particular, out of our 3 markets, San Diego's 1, Austin's 2, and Tampa's 3.
So my next question for you is building costs. San Diego is, we're approaching like $300 a square foot for most people, maybe even more in many cases. Is it pretty much the same in Austin and in Tampa, or are building materials cheaper? Is it labor? How does it break up? What's the best city to build?
Yeah, so it all depends on the current market and what's happening in the market location. As far as construction costs go across the board, Tampa's going to have the cheapest, Austin's the mid-tier range, and then San Diego's above both of them. When I say what I said originally, San Diego is a more established, kind of older market that seems to have a more consistent growth in property values, even if the nationwide market's down. People want to live here. Right. It's just a stronger place to own. In Austin, it's a very lucrative market, in the sense of if the market's great, it's going to be skyrocketing and setting record highs of sell prices per foot
Month after month, yeah.
month after month. But in a market like we've been in, Austin has literally been one of, if not the worst markets
Of the last year or so.
The
with
last year.
With the rate hikes and all that.
being involved in in actual development in Austin and developing properties to sell. I mean, properties have dropped almost 40% of the original game plan value in the last year. So, you guys haven't experienced that in San Diego?
Well, I think that the biggest reason, and we always talk about this when we're, I've been selling real estate for 8 years, and San Diego, everybody's like, well, Phoenix, the returns are great, and I think it's kind of similar. Austin is, I believe it's a flatter area, so like it's easier to build. They're more open to building.
It's actually hill country.
Okay.
It's like Texas hill country.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So it's actually pretty like there's a bunch of elevation changes, like
That's probably why people love it so much.
Yeah,
because it's not like Phoenix where they can just build straight
That's the thing.
up.
Most of Texas is flat,
Right.
but in Austin and San Antonio is like hill country Texas.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of cliff builds. There is a lot of elevation changes that you wouldn't expect, like, to be in Texas, especially on the west side of the city. Like Westlake Hills, Lakeway, like you're literally driving around Bee Cave Road, which is, just a popular street in Austin, or I mean a well-known street in Austin, and you're looking off, and it kind of mirrors San Diego, like as you're driving through, and you see like the different elevation changes.
Yeah.
In a way.
I've been to San Antonio, and I remember it's beautiful. Like there's lots of rivers going through. It's like a lot of limestone. I imagine concrete's probably way cheaper out there.
Yeah.
But I know what you're saying, I guess to that effect, I'm not entirely sure why, other than the fact that San Diego's just got so many things going for it. We're right by the border. We're right by the ocean, and we're one of the. Up until recently, we were one of the cheapest beach communities in all of California.
Yeah.
So I think San Diego's just like kind of caught up, but we've also had this pent up demand because they've limited construction so much for so many years that, I mean, we were way behind, and now they finally realized, like, wow, we've got an affordability and a homeless problem. We need to start allowing building. So it comes back to your point about why they're allowing such creative development all over. I mean, our downtown is very small compared to big major cities, and then our immediate surrounding neighbors, the downtown, are just a bunch of houses and stuff. So like, there's a lot of debate between the neighborhoods want to keep their neighborhoods neighborly, and then the ADU builders want to put 30 ADUs on the backyard. But the reality is, you can't have a growing city if you don't allow houses. And I had this conversation with Ramey. He's like, how do you have a growing population if you don't house the population? So they're trying to catch up with the housing, and we're still falling behind year over year, but not quite as much as we were for the last 20 years.
That's wild that's like still a thing. But
what about Tampa in terms of just building costs comparing San Diego, Austin, and Tampa?
Yeah, so I'll just speak specifically for like certain neighborhoods, just so you can know the area. So South Tampa is basically you'll call it the Del Mar, La Jolla of
Super nice part
Tampa.
Of Tampa.
So it's like you have Davis Island, where Derek Jeter and Tom Brady lived, and the properties in that area of South Tampa, if it's a spec build, you're looking at close to $225, $250 a foot, all in. Obviously, if it's a custom project, it goes way higher than that. But $225 to $250 a foot in the same area in Austin, which is like Westlake Hills on the west side. Like it's on the east side of Austin is like flat, like you expect Texas to be. But then the west side of Austin is like very aesthetically pleasing. It's where like Joe Rogan and all of the
like Musk, any of the new
all of the like you hear of anybody that lives in Austin, they live on the west side typically of Austin.
That's the spot to be.
Correct. Yeah. And so ultimately you're looking at close to $300 to $350 a foot. Again, depending on the product type, the product quantity, what it is. So it's a little bit more expensive. And then when you get to your La Jolla or Del Mars here, you know, on a more spec perspective, you're looking at, you know, 350 to 400 plus in San Diego.
Okay.
And so that's the kind of tiered levels of build types.
Does it sound like about $100 cheaper per foot to build? And
Pretty
does that
much.
come out to material cost mostly or labor? I mean, you're probably like close to Puerto Rico, and you have, but here we have, you know, Tijuana right nearby. So what's the breakdown?
There's so many factors that come into play. I mean, Austin in itself is such an interesting animal because the whole state of Texas, you don't need a GC license to build. So you can literally go there today and say, hey,
hire your neighbor who
literally, and say, hey, I'm going to be this big GC with, you know, really next to no experience, right? In California, you have to, anything over $500 that's materials and labor combined, you have to be licensed all the way down for any trade type, not just GC, any trade.
Right.
And so what increased costs a lot in California, especially in San Diego, is the desirability, like where we're located in San Diego, the desirability, or what, you know, the desire of, like, you know, being coastal. You're going to pay more of a premium for your GC because that GC's put in extra time, effort, and work to get the experience to be able to be qualified here.
Right.
So the
barriers to entry are
right, totally. So I've just seen, being a GC myself in California, Texas, and Florida, the amount of deal flow that's come in a short amount of time in San Diego versus a market of Austin I've been in has been almost 2 or 3 times.
Really?
Because it just
higher
means
demand here.
Correct. Well, higher demand, and it
supply of
and it means a lot. It just means a lot to have the GC in California, or the license. As far as, you know, location of, like, where each city's located, I mean, Tampa's a port, San Diego has a port, Austin is the more landlocked location out of those 3. So, like, I had originally said that Austin's like a really weird animal. The subs, and I love Austin, Texas, and I love the subcontractors I work with, and I will always love them. But for some reason, because the market's so lucrative and the price is rising when stuff's good, the subs and GCs back off or buy into that too. So they just keep increasing their costs, no matter if the quality doesn't change much. So it's like a total inflationary number, to where construction costs, for what I've seen, have been the most expensive in Austin within the state of Texas because of that. But you get the same product that you do in Houston or Dallas that you do in Austin, but it's just more expensive because of the price points keep rising.
Well, do you think, I think also and this is a big affordability thing in San Diego, and one of the reasons why our prices are very high now is because just to live here, or be I mean, unless you want to commute from Temecula, if you're pulling contractors from El Centro, like to come and do work here
Which
every
is
day.
fine. We love El Centro.
Right, we love El Centro, but the cost to live over there is way cheaper, and the reality is it's a sizable commute. It's like an hour to get there to San Diego from there, so like people are going to have to commute if they want that low cost of living. And if you don't want to commute, you want to be in San Diego, you want to be able to get to the property in 20 minutes to do work there, you're going to have potentially double the rent and just cost of living. Everything is going to be more expensive in your stores, and therefore you have to charge more. And it's maybe a similar story in Austin.
It is. So, I mean, speaking for Inabnet Contracting specifically, we only hire subs that are within the county that we're building in. So if the city, if the deal's in St. Petersburg, we can still use Hillsborough County, which is Tampa, subcontractors, but we would prefer to use Pinellas County, which is St. Petersburg.
So that they're closer to the job site.
Correct. Yeah. The goal is, you know, look, we sub every trade out, and so ultimately we are the manager of the entire project in more of a accounting role, overseer role,
Quality control.
have laborers there too that are our internal company. But ultimately, if we can cut down the time it takes our guys to get there, the project goes way smoother
and way faster.
Yeah,
because they're not traffic. I didn't show up till 12.
Yeah.
So I totally get that. We're running low on time, so I have a couple important questions I definitely want to ask you. First one: what is the biggest challenge that you're facing today that's in your mind every single morning when you wake up? What is the biggest challenge you haven't found you're trying to overcome right now?
I need to find more good people. With the brand, under the brand. So ultimately, like, my mind goes, okay, the vision's this, XYZ, we need XYZ or these types of people to fit the roles. And so spending time with those people is the only way that I can tell if they're going to fulfill that role or not.
Right.
So, I think I said earlier, time is money, right? So ultimately, the biggest thing that I think about is building the teams that are associated with the brand and making sure that the people that are brought in are bought into the vision. They're going to be here for a while, and they want to build other people up underneath the brand too, to be able to scale themselves as real estate development connoisseurs.
Right, love it.
Yeah.
So you're looking for good people. What can our listeners do to help you help connect the dots for you? You need people in the lending side, the construction side, really anybody who wants to get involved in multifamily is hungry is who you want to talk to?
Correct. So ultimately, the sales role is available right now. We would prefer each person that's involved have some sort of at least a couple years experience in the lending side or construction or property management, depending on what they're interested in. But sales is an interesting thing, because if you have persistence, if you have grit, if you have a creative mind, you can literally be successful in really selling anything. So we're open to anybody that is interested in staying for a while and learning a lot, because the cool thing about what the Inabnet brand offers is somebody may be in tech sales and say, hey, I want to get involved in construction sales. Well, we'll interview them. They have a great mindset, a great work ethic. Cool, let's do it. Well, say they love it for a couple of years and they're like, hey, I want to learn the lending side. So then we move them to the lending side.
Right.
So then they're with Inabnet funds, and they learn how to underwrite deals. They learn how to
communicate with the lenders,
correct,
with the clients,
all that
documents that they need.
Correct. And
high
so
level understanding.
Yes. And so, but then, I think what a lot of business owners hold on to is like, oh, they're just going to leave my company after that, which it's totally fine. Like we want everybody to stay. But if they want to go off and create their own development company or create their own businesses from what they learned, I mean, that's how I know I've personally won as a business owner. Correct.
Too, right.
It's the same thought of helping all of our multifamily real estate development clients. Is if we can help them achieve something higher than they thought that they could achieve outside of our business, if we're doing it internally with our people, that's even better.
I think that means, having that as a thought that's on the forefront, it's more that than it is the money. I think in the long run, that results in more success and more money.
Totally.
In achieving your goal of, a $10 billion company.
Yeah. Billion.
10 billion.
Billion.
10 billion. No, I think I said billion.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
$10 billion
I'm just
company.
making sure.
So yeah, we can't be messing that up. So last question I have for you. Let's see here. Yeah,
we got time.
Yeah. Last question I have for you is, and I ask this to all of our podcast guests, and my big thing in business is making sure that I'm always doing good business. And for me, that means always doing right by my clients, even if that doesn't mean it's the best thing for me personally. So a little bit about what you said just now, but I want to let you elaborate and tell me, what does good business mean to you in your industry?
This is a common response, but it's literally what we live by, and it's doing the right thing when nobody's watching. So given that we're involved in all three phases of lending, construction, and property management, that means that, yes, we have the ability to streamline the process and scale our clients' businesses way quicker than they thought, but the liability is on us. Like literally, like we could underwrite a loan amount wrong or incorrectly, and then it falls back on us because the client doesn't want to work with us again because we pushed a 75% LTV versus the norm 70, right? Just to get the business, right? Or in the GC world, it's, you know, a 25 unit in North Park, and we present a GMP construction proposal at, I don't know, like $350 all in per foot.
Right.
And the GC and we have the conversation with the client then says, hey, we have another guy that's at, you know, $325 a foot, same type of contract and everything. It's like, sorry, like we feel like that we would be cutting corners if we did that. And so ultimately we want to make sure that we hold and do what we know is best and is right as far as the cost goes, even if it means losing the opportunity.
Well, I think that's great because especially in the contracting world, there's so many contractors who go in with a teaser price and then come back and hit you with a bunch of construction changes after, which end up costing you maybe more than the alternative and maybe more months of time, and quality is maybe much lower too. So I think that they're...
Tell me if that happens on Pontiac.
I'll let you know.
But just to, you know, to dissect that further, it's, you know, having a $100,000 change order issue that could happen in the structural framing with our concrete sub or our framing sub, but the owner then, like, being able to problem solve it so well within our internal team that the owner never finds out, because our goal is to, like,
eliminate the stress.
Literally, 100%. So it's like, what can we do above and beyond, and do what, like, whenever the owner doesn't know, whenever the owner isn't, like, aware of something, to stay in the weeds and make our client's life easier whenever they're not watching.
Eliminate the concern.
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest thing is having problem solvers who can solve the issues before it comes to the boss's plate, who in many cases is the owner. Yeah. And I can attest, in the same way that you're saying this is a problem in the contracting field, we have the same thing on the brokerage side, because you'll end up with, you know, a lot of times owners love to hear that their property is worth more than it is. And sometimes that's the broker who they'll work with, is the one who straight up has the best ability to lie to their face and say that they can achieve an outlandish price, which is not in tune with any of the comps that they brought to the table. And you know, we come in and we always want to offer a price that we know we can deliver at, which the comps argue is the correct price, versus some outlandish number that, you know, is very unlikely to be achieved. But we lose out on deals because of that, because someone wants the guy who's going to tell them what they want to hear. But oftentimes we regain those deals after 6 months, when that broker ends up, you know, trying to ask them to cut the price down far below where we would have initially told them, and that's a disservice to the client. So,
well, the thought's this: it's you pass on one deal to gain 50 versus executing one deal to lose 50, or passing on one deal to gain 50, or executing one deal to lose like 500. It's like it totally compounds, even on the, you know, far worse side.
Yeah, long-term approach to earning trust and respect in the industry always prevails. Yeah. Well, hey, that's a great way to end this podcast. I really appreciate you coming on today, Alex. And for our listeners, if you are looking for a contractor or a lender in San Diego, we're going to put Alex's info here in the show notes. We hope you reach out to him. I know he's making big waves, and you'll enjoy working with him. So thanks for coming on the show, Alex.
Thanks so much.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Appreciate you, man.